A family forbidden from owning land came to finance empires, barred from parks, coffee houses, most professions. Within 2 generations, no European war could be fought without their approval. No canal built. No empire expanded. Not because they broke the rules of power, because they understood what every king and general had missed. Information moves faster than armies, and it pays better. You are watching a man sort coins. Frankfurt, the Judengasse, 1760s. His name is Meyer Amschel Rothschild. Outside, a lane too narrow for sunlight, locked at night. 3,000 Jewish residents behind closed gates. Curfew after dark. No entry to parks. No gatherings on Christian holidays. His parents died young. The rabbinical studies stopped. He learned finance instead. What he builds from here will redraw the map of Europe. The Rothschilds did not become the most powerful bankers in history because they were richer. They became powerful because they were faster. Faster at receiving information. Faster at moving capital. Faster at understanding what a piece of news meant before anyone else could act. In a world where news traveled by horse, speed was the only currency that never devalued, and they had built the only private infrastructure for it. Frankfurt, 1744. Meyer Amschel learned coins, which were rare, which the nobility wanted, which opened doors. Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse-Kassel took notice. He appointed Meyer court factor, a small title, a large door. Meyer sent his sons outward with a single directive: go to the most important cities in Europe, build relationships with the ruling houses, and write home constantly. Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, Naples. 1 family. 5 capitals. 5 information nodes, permanently linked. No government on the continent moved faster than the network they were assembling, and what began as letters between brothers became the nervous system of European finance. This is the first mechanism: distributed intelligence as financial infrastructure. Before the Rothschilds, information across Europe was slow. A letter from London to Paris took days. Battlefield news could take weeks. Markets moved on rumor. Fortunes depended on guesses. The 5 brothers changed this structurally. They wrote to each other in code, constantly. Commodity prices, bond yields, political rumors, military movements from 5 capitals simultaneously. Together, they knew what no single court, bank, or government could know alone. The Napoleonic Wars, 1792 to 1815, tested this network at full pressure. Both sides needed money. Both sides needed credit. The Rothschilds provided it to both. Nathan in London financed Wellington's campaigns, arranging the transfer of gold coin to Allied armies across a continent Napoleon controlled. Cash had to move through enemy territory. Nathan built the logistics: couriers on permanent standby, Rothschild ships moored in Calais, Ostend, and Dover. British Commissary General John Harries later called him the most capable and skillful financial agent the government had employed. But this was only the first layer. This is the second mechanism: asymmetric information as a trading weapon. June 18, 1815. Waterloo, Belgium. Napoleon's army met Wellington's coalition forces across open fields south of Brussels. The Prussians arrived late in the afternoon. By nightfall, Napoleon was finished. 23 years of war over. Europe did not yet know. A Rothschild courier crossed the channel on a waiting ship, changed horses on the road to London. Nathan received news of Wellington's victory roughly 48 hours before the British government's official dispatch arrived. He went to the stock exchange, and he began to buy. British consols, government bonds, had been depressed for 2 decades. Prices were low. Markets assumed the war had more to give. Nathan knew otherwise. He bought steadily. He held for more than 2 years. By late 1817, console prices were up over 40%. He sold. His profits, adjusted for today's purchasing power, approximately £600 million. He did not deceive anyone. He did not manufacture panic. He possessed one piece of information no other participant had, and he structured a trade around it before the world caught up. This is where the pattern becomes a trap for everyone else. But here's the problem. Power built on invisible infrastructure does not stay invisible. And invisible power generates its own stories, whether or not those stories are true. Napoleon had granted Jewish communities equal rights across his territories. Centuries of legal discrimination, suspended by decree, for a prominent Jewish family to help finance his defeat was not, in many eyes, merely business. It was read as betrayal. The backlash built slowly, then all at once. By the 1840s, pamphlets circulated across Europe attributing hidden, coordinated control of governments to the Rothschilds. By the 1870s, the family name was shorthand for a conspiracy that did not exist. By 1940, that fiction had been industrialized. The Nazi regime used the Waterloo Trade as the centerpiece of a propaganda film, Die Rothschilds, Aktien of Waterloo, depicting deliberate market manipulation, historical fabrication, presented as documentary. That same year, the Vienna branch had already been destroyed. Following the Anschluss of 1938, Louis von Rothschild was imprisoned, released only after a substantial ransom was paid. Properties, artworks, businesses, confiscated. The architecture built over 150 years could not survive what it had helped generate. That is when it stops being history and starts being a warning. And if this sounds familiar, it should. Today, the advantage of speed and information belongs to a different class of operators. High-frequency trading firms execute orders in microseconds. In 2010, a company called Spread Networks laid 1,300 kilometers of fiber optic cable between Chicago and New Jersey, purely to reduce trading latency by 3 milliseconds. 3 milliseconds. Hundreds of millions of dollars. The logic is identical to what Nathan built with couriers and channel crossings in 1815. Whoever gets the signal first wins. The technology changes. The mechanism does not. And public suspicion about concentrated, invisible financial advantage faster than any government can see. That has not disappeared either. But what happens when the advantage concentrates in too few hands? When the infrastructure that built power becomes indistinguishable from control? The Naples branch closed in 1863, Frankfurt in 1901, Vienna seized in 1938, Paris nationalized in 1982. 4 of the 5 branches Meyer Amschel built from the Judengasse dismantled, by revolutions, by nationalism, by governments that decided concentrated private financial power was no longer acceptable. The Rothschilds survived because London held. Most concentrated advantages don't survive at all. History does not ask permission before withdrawing the tolerance it once extended. So what should you take away from this? First, information advantage is the oldest form of financial edge, not algorithms. 5 brothers writing coded letters across 5 capitals. Second, distributed systems outlast centralized ones. No single government could seize all 5 branches at once. Third, invisible power is never invisible for long. It generates narrative, and those narratives can be weaponized faster than the power itself can respond. The theme is constant. Whoever controls the signal controls the outcome. The players change. The mechanism does not. 1 family. 5 cities. The nervous system of European finance, built from a lane too narrow for sunlight. That is not history. That is the logic still running in every market, every algorithm, every cable laid under the ocean today. Money memory. Subscribe, so the past stops surprising you.